Today, I'm going to speak about joy. For many decades, I had a psychotherapy office on West 34th Street in Manhattan, right across from the Empire State Building and down the street from Macy's. It's a really busy part of town, and it is again now too. One December afternoon, a person came into my office and she said, "I hate this city this time of year. I hate it. It's commercial. People are just banging into you everywhere. All they want you to do is to buy. I hate it." And then she went off into her day. A few hours later, I had another person walk into my office, and she said, "I love this city this time of year. I love it. It's magical. There's snow, the windows, families together. It is so beautiful. I love this city this time of year." And then she went off into her day. And I thought, wow, look at those two different lenses here. Really seeing something very similar on the outside. Which do I usually choose? Person number one. I could hear that question, what is this joy thing? Kind of that Scrooge part of me just kind of, rearing up asking that question. Well, joy is one of the four Brahma Viharas. It's one of the four heavenly qualities or four immeasurables. I think sometimes it gets lost in between them. You have loving kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity. Joy is a tiny little word right in there between compassion and equanimity. It sometimes gets lost between those words and qualities. Its Pali word, mudita, is a bigger word, and sukha is a sweet word. It's a sweet word. Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines joy as the emotion evoked by well-being, success, or good fortune, or by the prospect of possessing what one desires. I don't want to be unkind, but I think it's a little limited in the definition. Susan writes in one of her teachings, it takes a deliberate intention to see and feel into joyful moments. Can we make the deliberate choice to notice and to savor? By illuminating joy, she says, we are bringing the wholesome around and feeding the heart good food, restoring its lightness and brightness. And it really does turn the focus away from the negativity. We don't need to worry. We don't need to worry about that because that negativity is there. It's there. We can have it. But still, it's about choosing a different focus. We have a negativity bias. We've been talking about that. It's natural, it's part of our biology. And for some of us, more than others, there's a real strong magnetic pull. It's hard to unstick. it's easy or easier to see how joy can emerge more freely. It emerges more freely when there is an atmosphere of loving kindness and friendliness. We've been talking a lot about dukkha. Dukkha in the body, dukkha in the interpersonal, dukkha of old age, sickness, death, and all that's in between. And for sure, when we are gripped by distress, it's hard, maybe it's even impossible to access joy. Or when we feel threatened or hurt, jealous, it may be impossible. But what's not possible, or what is possible rather, what is possible, is we can remember that joy is here. It's available to us. We can become very attached to our suffering. And when we are in our suffering, we can really believe that that's all there is, nothing more but that. I love this image. I love it because it really helps me. When there is an intense storm and the sky is black, just dark, and the lightning is bolting and the thunder is rolling, and then it moves out. It's just gone. And there's this blue sky. Sati reminds us to remember that when that difficult storm front moves out, and it will, there is this sky. It's always here. Even though I could not see it, remember. Sati helps us to remember it's here. As I've gotten older and more committed to practice, I more and more recognize how valuable that deliberate intention to notice joy in ordinary pleasures is. Breathing, for example, that we've been talking a lot about precious breath. Ordinary can reveal its extraordinariness if we can just allow ourselves to choose to see it. Mindfulness offers us such an intimacy with all that we experience. It helps us to expand our capacity just to appreciate. And there is joy. There is joy in this learning to appreciate more, whatever it is. I think joy has something to do with how mysterious life is and the sense of awe and wonder, like that child who's about to go on a big adventure and they're all excited to go off and learn something or discover something, or the magic of the fireflies. I remember just being so delighted when I saw those lights in the sky. From the Book of Awakening by Mark Nepa. Ask the medicine man to the sick man, when is the last time you really laughed? Belly laughed. When is the last time you let yourself sing or dance? And maybe this is true for some of you, we can grieve for the joy that was there, but not available to us because it was so difficult. If there is grief, can this grief become our teacher? What it might teach us is that we can touch joy even in the most difficult of times. We think that joy is something that comes upon us. Sometimes it does. But joy can also come upon us by choice. Can we choose to experience joy? People are suffering. Is it okay to be joyful? We get very identified with our suffering, and sometimes it might even feel a little disloyal if we feel joy. It almost spoils dukkha, almost. We can feel the tenderness of this, a fragility. It's fleeting. Just going to read this one little brief piece from Jack Gilbert, Brief for the Defense. There is laughter every day in the terrible streets of Calcutta, and the women laugh in the cages of Bombay. If we deny our happiness, resist our satisfaction, then we lessen the importance of its deprivation. We must risk delight. We can live without pleasure, but not delight, not enjoyment. We must have the stubbornness to accept our gladness in the ruthless furnace of this world. A stubbornness to accept our gladness. Buddha said, live in joy, in love, even among those who hate. Live in joy, in health, even among the afflicted. Live in joy, in peace, even among the troubled. Look within. He's instructing us to choose joy. And I will close with this. As we sit here right now together, there are people across town, across the country, around the world, strangers, who are sending us wishes for our happiness, for our safety, and for our well-being. May we know joy and the causes of joy. Thank you for listening, everybody. Thank you for listening.